Hi students! Welcome to General Physics 2 G12 STEM class. I'm Miss Aragoncelio, your physics instructor, and I am very excited to work with you. For today's lesson, we will be discussing about the storage of charges by batteries and electroscope, including on how does the batteries and electroscope works, as it is part of our lessons, electric with calculations. So please pay attention as we will discuss it further. So what is batteries? Batteries comes from different sizes and it is a form of storing energy. It is vital to many devices that won't get plugged on an electrical outlet or electrical wall outlet. So when we say battery, we are not going to plug it on the electrical wall outlet because battery can store energy. So let's proceed the advantage and disadvantage of the batteries. So the advantage of batteries, it can store thousands of times more energy than a capacitor having the same volume. And its disadvantage, sometimes batteries can provide energy as quickly as it is needed. Over time, batteries can lose their ability to hold a charge. This happens even with some rechargeable batteries. So some researchers are always looking for a new designs to address this problem. But once the battery can't be used, people usually discard it and buy a new one. So why are the people going to discard the battery if it is not useful anymore? It is because some batteries contain chemicals and that aren't eco-friendly. They must be recycled because there is possibility if you're still keeping it or if you're still holding it even it is not useful anymore, pwede kang mahilo. You will be poisoned. So with that, in many cases, engineers began looking at the capacitor. So this is where we will discuss the capacitor. So what is a capacitor? So capacitor can serve a variety of functions. In a circuit, they can block the flow of direct current but allow alternating current to pass. In certain circuits, capacitor helps tune a radio to a particular frequency. But more and more, engineers can also look into use capacitor to store energy. So my dear students, as you can see it on the picture, that is what a capacitors look like. So as you can observe, capacitors has a pretty basic design and it is a simplest one that made of two components that can conduct electricity, and it is called a conductors. A capacitor remains electrically neutral. In the other words, the conductors on each side of the gap develop equal but opposite charges, and that is the negative and positive. The amount of energy a capacitor can store depends on several factors. The larger the surface of each conductor, the more charge it can store. Also, the better the insulator in the gap between the two conductors, the more charge that can be stored. So let's take for example, the flash bulb in a camera. It needs a lot of energy in a very short time to make a bright flash of light. So instead of a battery, the circuit in a flash attachment uses a capacitor to store energy. That capacitors get its energy from batteries in a slow but steady flow. When the capacitor is fully charged, the flash bulb's ready lights comes on. When a picture is taken, that capacitor releases its energy quickly. Then, the capacitor begins to charge up again. So, let's proceed to electroscopes. So, what is electroscope? So, electroscope is the first measuring instrument that is pivoted a needle. So, It is called a versorium. It is invented by British physician William Gilbert around 1600. The Pinball electroscope and the gold leaf electroscope are two classical types of electroscope. So, electroscope has the two types of classical. So, the first is Pinball electroscope and the second is gold leaf electroscope. So, let's discuss these two types. So, what is Pinball electroscope? So, the Pinball electroscope invented by British schoolmaster and physicist John Canton in 1754 consists of one or two small balls of a lightweight non-conductive substance, originally a spongy plant material called peat, suspended by silk or linen thread from the hook of an insulated stand. So Tiberius Cavallo made an electroscope in 1770 with peat balls at the end of silver wires. Modern electroscopes usually use balls made of plastics. In order to test the presence of a charge of an object, the object is brought near to the uncharged peat balls. If the object is charged, the ball will be attracted to it and move toward it. So that is how the Pinball electroscope works. So let's proceed to gold leaf electroscope. So gold leaf electroscope was developed in 1787 by British clergyman and physicist Abraham Binet. As more sensitive instrument than Pinball or straw blade electroscope then in use. It consists of a vertical metal root and usually brass, from the end of which hang two parallel strips of thin flexible gold leaf. Watch this.
Let's start the activity. Here is a glass rod. It has no charge. When brass disc of gold leaf electroscope is made to touch with glass rod, its gold leaf shows no divergence. That means gold leaf is in fully collapsed position. Now take silk cloth and glass rod. Rub the glass rod with silk cloth. Now glass rod is made to touch with the brass disc of gold leaf electroscope. Then its gold leaf shows divergence. The divergence of gold leaves remains even if the glass rod is removed. Let us understand the reason for divergence of gold leaves. When a glass rod is rubbed with silk cloth, glass rod loses some of its surface electrons to the silk cloth and becomes positively charged. When the glass rod is made to touch with brass cap, the electrons from the gold leaf as well as brass rod flow into the glass rod. Since a deficiency of electrons takes place between the gold leaf and brass rod, they get positively charged. As similar charges repel each other, therefore gold leaf gets repelled and hence the divergence. Gold leaf shows divergence even when the glass rod is removed.
So that is how the gold leaf electroscope works. So my dear students, this is where I will end our topic and sana may natutunan kayo. Always remember the highlights and don't forget the meanings of electroscopes, capacitors, and batteries. Goodbye and thank you for listening and watching. So I hope you will also subscribe and like my videos on my YouTube channel. I-promote ko na siya, ma'am. So, this is the end of the discussion. I hope you learned something and you will apply it on your future and hindi kayo ma-zero exam ko soon. So, again, I am Miss Aragonsalia, your physics instructor, leaving you a message. Life is like a battery. It won't last forever. But keep on smiling and keep on storing energy because life is beautiful. And there's so much things to smile about. See you on my next video. Good night. In a circuit, they can block the flow of direct current, but allow so Sana si Mama, uy! It is invented by and you learned some of our topics. What conductors na pod! Let's take it an example.